Welcome to Stories by Jayvil. Please remember to subscribe, like, and share this video with your loved ones. May God bless you for doing so. Also, let us know where you are watching from in the comment section. Now let's dive into the story. Ethan Reed stared at the cracked screen of his phone, scrolling through job postings that felt more like taunts than opportunities. His bank account was nearly empty and rent was due in 2 weeks. Life had been one setback after another, and the weight of his struggles was growing heavier by the day. Once a promising athlete with dreams of a bright future, Ethan now found himself stuck in a cycle of odd jobs and missed chances. He had charisma, sure, but charm could only take you so far when the bills piled up. It was a sunny afternoon in the bustling city of Crestview, and Ethan had decided to take a walk to clear his head. As he strolled down the busy streets, past coffee shops and office buildings, he couldn't help but feel out of place among the neatly dressed professionals and polished storefronts. He shoved his hands into his jacket pockets, trying to shake off the creeping sense of inadequacy. Ethan Reed. The voice startled him, and he turned to see a familiar face, Michael Carter. Ethan froze for a moment, unsure if he was imagining things. Michael had been his best friend in high school, the guy who had it all figured out even back then. While Ethan had been the life of the party, Michael was the straight-laced achiever, always focused and disciplined. "Michael," Ethan said, his surprise giving way to a wide grin. "Wow, it's been forever." Michael laughed and reached out for a firm handshake. "It's good to see you, man. How have you been?" Ethan hesitated, unsure how to condense years of struggle into a casual answer. "You know, life's been interesting," he said with a chuckle that didn't quite reach his eyes. "What about you? You look like you've been doing pretty well." Michael smiled modestly, glancing down at his tailored suit. "Yeah, things have been good. I started a company, Bright Path Energy. We're working on renewable energy solutions. It's been a lot of hard work, but it's paying off." "That's incredible," Ethan said, genuinely impressed. "I always knew you'd make something big out of yourself." Michael waved off the compliment. "Come on, don't sell yourself short. What are you up to these days?" Ethan shifted uncomfortably. "Oh, just trying to make ends meet." "It's been a bit of a rough patch." Michael's expression softened. "I get it, life can throw some curveballs. But hey, maybe I can help." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Help? How?" Michael leaned in slightly, his voice filled with enthusiasm. "Bright Path is expanding fast, and I need someone I can trust to help me manage the growth." "You've always been great with people, Ethan. I could use someone like you on my team." Ethan blinked in disbelief. "Michael, I don't know the first thing about renewable energy." "You'll learn," Michael said with a grin. "I'll teach you everything you need to know. Honestly, it's not just a job I'm offering. I want you to be a partner." The word partner hung in the air, almost too good to be true. Ethan's mind raced. Could this really be happening? Was this the lifeline he'd been praying for? "Why me?" Ethan asked quietly. "I mean, you could hire anyone. Why give me this chance?" Michael's smile softened. "Because you're my friend, and I believe in giving people second chances. We've all had our struggles, Ethan. But I see potential in you, potential I don't want to go to waste." Ethan felt a lump in his throat, the weight of Michael's words sinking in. After years of feeling like a failure, here was someone who believed in him, someone who was willing to bet on him despite everything. "I don't know what to say," Ethan admitted, his voice thick with emotion. "Say yes," Michael said simply. Ethan took a deep breath and nodded. "All right, I'm in." That evening, as Ethan sat in his small apartment, he couldn't stop thinking about the opportunity ahead of him. For the first time in years, he felt a spark of hope, a chance to rewrite his story. Little did he know this second chance would change his life forever, but not in the way he imagined. Ethan Reed stepped into the sleek offices of Bright Path Energy for the first time and felt like he had entered another world. The gleaming glass walls, polished floors, and state-of-the-art technology stood in stark contrast to the dingy apartments and odd job sites he had grown used to. It was intimidating, to say the least, but also exhilarating. This was his chance to turn things around. Michael Carter, as promised, wasted no time bringing Ethan into the fold. He introduced Ethan to the team, a mix of seasoned professionals and bright young talent, and began teaching him the ins and outs of the business. Though Ethan initially felt out of his depth, his natural charm and ability to connect with people quickly set him apart. "Just be yourself," Michael said during one of their mentoring sessions. "You have a way of making people trust you, Ethan. That's something you can't teach." It wasn't long before Ethan began to thrive. Michael tasked him with handling client relationships and attending networking events, roles that played to Ethan's strengths. He had always been a talker, someone who could win over a room with a smile and a well-timed joke. Now he was using those skills to secure deals and build partnerships for Bright Path Energy. Ethan's life began to change in ways he had never imagined. His old wardrobe of worn-out jeans and tattered sneakers was replaced with tailored suits and polished shoes. He traded his rusted old car for a sleek electric sedan that turned heads wherever he went. For the first time in years, he could afford to live in a modern apartment with views of the city skyline. It wasn't just his material life that transformed. For the first time in years, Ethan felt a sense of purpose. He woke up each morning with a drive to succeed, determined not to let Michael down. His confidence grew with each successful deal, each handshake, and each client who praised his work. At home, however, things were less rosy. Rachel, Ethan's girlfriend of 6 years, had supported him through his lowest moments. She had worked long hours to keep them afloat when he couldn't, sacrificing her own dreams to keep their relationship together. But as Ethan's career took off, Rachel began to feel the growing distance between them. "You've changed," Rachel said one evening as Ethan prepared for yet another networking event. "You're not the same person you were before." Ethan paused, adjusting his tie in the mirror. "Isn't that a good thing? I'm finally making something of myself," Rachel sighed. "I'm proud of you, Ethan, but I miss the man I fell in love with, the one who used to care about more than just work." "This is important, Rachel," Ethan said, his tone defensive. "I'm doing this for us." "Are you?" she asked quietly, her eyes searching his. "Because it feels like you're doing it for yourself." As Ethan became more immersed in his new life, he found himself drawn to the glitz and glamour of the corporate world. He attended high-profile galas and exclusive networking events, rubbing shoulders with Crestview's elite. It was at one such event that he met Vanessa Blake, a wealthy socialite known for her charm and sharp wit. "You're quite the star around here," Vanessa said, her smile dazzling. "Michael must be lucky to have you." Ethan grinned, his ego swelling. "I try to make myself useful." Vanessa leaned closer, her voice low and conspiratorial. "You know, someone like you doesn't need to play second fiddle. Have you ever thought about what it would be like to have it all?" Her words lingered in Ethan's mind long after the event. For the first time, he began to question his place at Bright Path Energy. He had always seen Michael as his mentor and benefactor, but now he wondered if he was undervaluing himself. Wasn't he the one securing the deals and winning over clients? Didn't he deserve more recognition, more reward? As Ethan's ambition grew, so did the rift between him and Michael. Though Michael continued to support and encourage him, Ethan began to feel resentful of his friend's position as the company's leader. He convinced himself that he was the real reason Bright Path Energy was thriving and that Michael was simply reaping the benefits of his hard work. The tension also seeped into Ethan's relationship with Rachel. She tried to talk to him to remind him of the dreams they had once shared, but her words fell on deaf ears. Ethan was too focused on his newfound success to see what he was losing. One evening, as Rachel set the table for dinner, Ethan walked in and announced, "I'm heading out to meet some clients. Don't wait up." Rachel put down the plates and looked at him, her frustration finally boiling over. "Do you even see me anymore, Ethan? Or have I become just another part of your old life?" Ethan hesitated, guilt flickering across his face. But instead of addressing her concerns, he said, "We'll talk about this later," and walked out the door. Ethan's new beginning was everything he had dreamed of, but the cracks were already starting to show. Blinded by ambition and the allure of success, he couldn't see the damage he was doing to the people who cared about him most, or the betrayal that was quietly brewing. Ethan's world continued to expand as Bright Path Energy thrived. The deals he brokered and the partnerships he formed became the backbone of the company's success. Everywhere he went, people treated him like a star. Clients praised his charm, investors lauded his vision, and his name began to circulate in Crestview's elite circles. For Ethan, it was intoxicating, but as his influence grew, so did his sense of entitlement. While Michael remained focused on the long-term goals of the company, Ethan began to see himself as the true face of Bright Path Energy. After all, wasn't he the one securing deals? Wasn't he the one charming investors? Slowly but surely, the gratitude he once felt toward Michael was replaced with a growing sense of resentment. It was during one of Crestview's glittering galas that Ethan met Vanessa Blake. She was a striking woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper tongue, the kind of person who could command attention simply by walking into a room. Vanessa thrived in the same world of wealth and power that Ethan had just entered, and she saw in him the perfect combination of ambition and vulnerability. "You're Ethan Reed," Vanessa said, sidling up to him as he stood by the bar, "the rising star of Bright Path Energy." Ethan turned to her, surprised but flattered. "You've heard of me," Vanessa laughed, a low, knowing sound. "Of course, Michael Carter may have started Bright Path, but everyone knows you're the one driving its success." Ethan's chest swelled with pride. "I wouldn't go that far." "But you should," Vanessa said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone. "You're the one out there making things happen. Michael's just riding on your coattails." Ethan chuckled, but her words struck a chord. Vanessa spent the rest of the evening subtly planting seeds of doubt and ambition in his mind. By the end of the night, Ethan couldn't shake the thought that perhaps she was right, perhaps he deserved more. As Ethan's relationship with Vanessa deepened, so did the rift between him and Rachel. She noticed the late nights, the whispered phone calls, and the way Ethan seemed increasingly distracted when they were together. One evening, Rachel confronted him as he was getting ready to leave for another event. "Ethan, we need to talk." "Can it wait?" he asked, barely glancing at her as he adjusted his tie. "No, it can't," Rachel said firmly. "You're barely here anymore. I don't even recognize you." Ethan sighed, turning to face her. "Rachel, we've been over this. This is work. It's not like I'm out there partying." "Then why does it feel like I'm losing you?" Rachel's voice cracked. "We used to talk about building a life together, but now it feels like you're building one without me." Ethan hesitated, guilt flashing across his face. But instead of addressing her concerns, he said, "I'm doing this for us, Rachel. You'll see, it'll all be worth it in the end." As he walked out the door, Rachel sat down at the dining table, her heart heavy with the realization that the man she loved was slipping away. Meanwhile, Ethan's growing ambition began to influence his decisions at Bright Path Energy. He started making deals and forming partnerships without consulting Michael, convinced that his instincts were better than his friend's measured approach. He even began skimming money from the company's accounts, rationalizing it as compensation for the hard work he was doing. Michael, preoccupied with expanding Bright Path's operations, remained unaware of Ethan's actions. He trusted Ethan completely, believing that their friendship and shared goals were enough to keep everything on track. But Ethan was no longer the same man Michael had hired. Fueled by Vanessa's manipulations and his own ego, Ethan began to see Michael not as a friend, but as an obstacle. Why should he settle for being a partner when he could be in charge? One afternoon, while tidying up their apartment, Rachel found a receipt for an expensive necklace tucked into Ethan's jacket pocket. Her heart sank. She knew he hadn't bought it for her. When Ethan came home that evening, Rachel confronted him, holding the receipt in her trembling hands. "Who is she?" Ethan froze, his face a mixture of surprise and guilt. "Rachel, it's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is," she said, her voice breaking. "Because I can't keep pretending everything is fine when it's not." Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's for a client. It's business." Rachel shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "Don't lie to me, Ethan. I deserve better than this." For a moment, Ethan looked like he might apologize, but then his pride took over. "You know what, Rachel? Maybe you do deserve better. Maybe we both do." Rachel stared at him, stunned. Without another word, she turned and walked into the bedroom, slamming the door behind her. Ethan's path was clear now, but it was a path of destruction. His ambition and arrogance were driving him further away from the people who cared about him most. And while he convinced himself that he was climbing towards success, he couldn't see the steep fall waiting just ahead. Michael Carter prided himself on his diligence. As the founder of BrightPath Energy, he had built the company from the ground up, paying attention to every detail. But as the company expanded, he had grown increasingly reliant on Ethan to handle client relations and outreach. He trusted Ethan completely, believing their shared history and mutual goals made them an unshakable team. But Michael couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was off. It started with small inconsistencies, projects running over budget, deals being made without his knowledge. At first, he dismissed these as growing pains, the natural chaos of a rapidly expanding company. But when a routine financial audit revealed unexplained withdrawals and discrepancies, Michael knew he had to dig deeper. Michael stayed late in the office one evening, poring over financial records and email correspondences. With each document he examined, the picture became clearer and more damning. Unauthorized transactions, inflated expenses, and secret deals were all tied back to Ethan. The man he had trusted as a partner and friend had been exploiting that trust for personal gain. Michael leaned back in his chair, staring at the pile of evidence before him. His chest tightened with a mix of anger and heartbreak. How could Ethan do this? After everything he had done to give him a second chance, after all the opportunities he had provided, this was how Ethan repaid him. For a moment, Michael considered calling Ethan right then and there, demanding an explanation. But he stopped himself. This wasn't just a personal betrayal, it was a betrayal of the company, of the employees who had worked so hard to make BrightPath Energy what it was. He needed to act carefully. The next morning, Michael called Ethan into his office under the guise of discussing a new project. Ethan walked in confidently, dressed in a crisp suit and wearing his trademark smile. "Morning, Michael. What's up?" Michael didn't return the smile. Instead, he slid a thick folder across the desk. "Care to explain this?" Ethan's smile faltered as he opened the folder and saw the incriminating evidence inside. Bank statements, emails, and contracts, everything he had thought was hidden was now laid bare. His mind raced as he tried to come up with an excuse, a way to spin the situation in his favor. This isn't what it looks like," Ethan stammered, his voice unsteady. "Then tell me what it is," Michael said, his tone calm but icy. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been stealing from the company." Ethan closed the folder and leaned back in his chair, trying to regain his composure. "Look, Michael, I've been working harder than anyone else here. I'm the one out there closing deals, building relationships. Don't you think I deserve a little more for everything I've done?" Michael's jaw tightened. "A little more? You think stealing from the company is how you earn a little more? I trusted you, Ethan. I gave you a chance when no one else would. And this is how you repay me?" Ethan's defensiveness turned to anger. "You're acting like you built this company on your own, Michael. Let's not forget who's been the face of BrightPath Energy for the past 2 years. I'm the one making it successful, not you." Michael shook his head, his disappointment palpable. "You've let your ego blind you, Ethan. This company was built on trust and integrity, two things you clearly don't understand." After Ethan stormed out of the office, Michael sat quietly, his emotions swirling. Part of him wanted to let Ethan go quietly, to avoid the scandal that would surely follow if the truth came out. But he knew that wasn't an option. Ethan's actions had jeopardized everything they had worked for, and Michael couldn't let it slide. He called an emergency meeting with the company's legal team and board of directors. Presenting the evidence, he outlined a plan to remove Ethan from the company and pursue legal action. "This isn't just about protecting BrightPath Energy," Michael said firmly. "It's about sending a message that this kind of betrayal won't be tolerated." The board members agreed, though the mood in the room was somber. They had all liked Ethan, admired his charisma and work ethic. But the evidence was undeniable, and the trust was irreparably broken. Meanwhile, Ethan continued to act as though nothing had changed. He attended meetings, charmed clients, and went about his day with the same confidence he always had. In his mind, he still believed he could talk his way out of any trouble. After all, hadn't his charm always been his greatest asset? But as the walls began to close in around him, Ethan remained oblivious to the storm brewing. Michael was preparing to act, and Ethan was about to face the consequences of his greed and betrayal. The seeds of destruction had been sown, and there was no turning back. Ethan arrived at Brightpath Energy's headquarters that morning with his usual confidence, greeting employees with his signature charm. His sharp suit and polished demeanor masked the cracks in his facade. He had convinced himself that Michael's accusations were nothing more than an overreaction, that with a few well-chosen words, he could smooth things over and regain control of the narrative. But Michael had other plans. As Ethan stepped off the elevator and into the sleek lobby, he noticed the tension in the air. Employees whispered in hushed tones, their eyes darting toward him before quickly looking away. At first, he brushed it off until he saw Michael standing near the entrance with two uniformed police officers by his side. "Ethan Reed," one of the officers said as they approached, "you're under arrest for embezzlement and fraud." Ethan froze, his smile fading as the words sank in. "Wait, what? This has to be some kind of mistake." The officer ignored his protests, pulling out a pair of handcuffs. As they secured his wrists, Ethan turned to Michael, his voice rising in desperation. "Michael, you don't have to do this. We can work this out." Michael's expression was cold but resolute. "This isn't about us, Ethan. It's about the company and the people who trusted you. You crossed the line and now you have to face the consequences." The police escorted Ethan out of the building as reporters and photographers swarmed the scene. Cameras flashed, capturing every humiliating moment as Ethan was led to a waiting police car. The man who had once been the charismatic face of Brightpath Energy was now the center of a public scandal. The news of Ethan's arrest spread quickly, dominating headlines and social media. "Brightpath betrayal, partner arrested in embezzlement scandal" read one headline, while another proclaimed, "From rising star to fallen icon, Ethan Reed's downfall." Vanessa Blake, who had been a constant presence in Ethan's life during his rise to success, was notably absent. The moment she heard about his arrest, she severed all ties, deleting his number and distancing herself from the scandal. Vanessa had no intention of sticking around for a man who could no longer provide the lifestyle she desired. Meanwhile, Rachel watched the news coverage from the small apartment she now called home. Though she had left Ethan weeks earlier, the sight of him in handcuffs still brought a pang of sadness. She had loved him once, but the man she saw on the screen was a stranger, consumed by greed and blinded by ambition. With Ethan gone, Michael faced the daunting task of rebuilding Brightpath Energy's reputation. He held a press conference to address the scandal, standing before a room full of reporters with a calm, steady presence. "Today is a difficult day for Brightpath Energy," Michael began. "The actions of one individual have violated the trust of our employees, clients, and partners. But I want to assure you all that Brightpath Energy is more than one person. We remain committed to our mission of innovation, integrity, and sustainability." The press conference was well received, and clients who had initially threatened to pull out began to reaffirm their support for the company. Michael's transparency and leadership were praised, and Brightpath Energy slowly began to recover. Ethan sat in a cold grey prison cell, staring at the bare walls as reality set in. Gone were the days of luxury and adoration. He had nothing now, no career, no reputation, no one to lean on. The people he had betrayed, the trust he had shattered, all weighed heavily on his mind. He thought of Michael, who had believed in him when no one else did. He thought of Rachel, who had stood by him through years of struggle, only to be cast aside when he finally found success. And he thought of Vanessa, who had disappeared as quickly as she had entered his life. For the first time in years, Ethan was forced to confront himself, the choices he had made, the people he had hurt, and the man he had become. It was a sobering realization, one that left him questioning whether he could ever make things right. As Ethan adjusted to life behind bars, Brightpath Energy continued to thrive under Michael's leadership. The company implemented stricter policies and internal audits to prevent future betrayals, ensuring that its foundation of integrity remained unshaken. Rachel, meanwhile, found solace in her passion for writing. She published a memoir about her experiences, chronicling her journey from heartbreak to healing. The book became a bestseller, resonating with readers who saw themselves in her story of resilience and self-discovery. Ethan's fall served as a cautionary tale for Crestviews business community, a reminder that ambition unchecked by integrity could lead to ruin. For Michael and Rachel, it was a painful chapter that ultimately strengthened their resolve to move forward and rebuild. Ethan, alone in his cell, had all the time in the world to reflect on what he had lost, but whether he could ever redeem himself remained to be seen. Months after Ethan's downfall, life in Crestview began to move forward. The scandal that had once consumed headlines had faded, leaving behind lessons for those who had witnessed it. For Michael and Rachel, the end of Ethan's chapter marked the beginning of their own journeys, ones of resilience, growth, and purpose. Under Michael Carter's steady leadership, Bright Path Energy rose from the ashes of the scandal. Michael worked tirelessly to rebuild the company's reputation, implementing rigorous transparency measures and fostering a culture of accountability. He knew that trust once broken was difficult to regain, but he was determined to show his employees, clients, and investors that BrightPath's mission remained unchanged. One of his most significant moves was launching the BrightPath Community Initiative, a program dedicated to funding renewable energy projects in underprivileged neighborhoods. The initiative garnered widespread praise, with Michael positioning BrightPath Energy not just a company, but as a force for good. During a public event announcing the program, a journalist asked Michael, after everything BrightPath has been through, "How have you managed to keep moving forward?" Michael's answer was simple yet profound. "Setbacks are inevitable, but integrity is non-negotiable." BrightPath Energy was built on a foundation of trust, and we're committed to proving that trust every single day. The crowd applauded, and Michael's words resonated far beyond the room. In time, BrightPath Energy regained its footing, becoming stronger than ever. For Rachel, Ethan's betrayal and their subsequent breakup had been devastating. But in the months following their split, she found strength she didn't know she had. Moving into a modest apartment, she began to rediscover herself, pouring her emotions into a passion she had long neglected, writing. Rachel started with a journal documenting her feelings, her memories, and the lessons she had learned. What began as a private outlet soon transformed into something more. Encouraged by friends, she expanded her writings into a memoir titled Rebuilding Rachel, a journey from heartbreak to hope. The memoir was an instant hit, resonating with readers who saw themselves in her story of resilience. Rachel became a sought-after speaker, sharing her journey at events and empowering others to reclaim their lives after betrayal. One evening, during a book signing, a young woman approached Rachel with tears in her eyes. "Your story saved me," the woman said. "I was in a relationship where I felt invisible, but after reading your book, I realized I deserved better." "Thank you," Rachel smiled, her heart full. Helping others heal gave her pain a purpose, and for the first time in years she felt at peace. In his prison cell, Ethan Reed had nothing but time. Days blurred into weeks, and weeks into months, as he replayed the choices that had led to his downfall. The lavish parties, the secret deals, the lies, it all seemed so meaningless now. What had he truly gained? And more importantly, what had he lost? He thought often of Michael, who had given him a second chance, only for Ethan to betray him. He thought of Rachel, who had loved him unconditionally until he pushed her away. And he thought of Vanessa, whose fleeting presence in his life had left nothing but regret in its wake. One day, Ethan received a letter from Michael. It was short, but its message was clear. "Ethan, I don't hate you. I hope you find the clarity and strength to move forward. Redemption is always possible, but it starts with taking responsibility. Michael." The letter left Ethan staring at the cell wall for hours, tears stinging his eyes. He didn't know if he could ever make amends, but he resolved to try. For now, his focus was on self-reflection, acknowledging the pain he had caused and vowing to do better if given the chance. As time passed, BrightPath Energy and Rachel's career flourished. Michael's leadership turned the company into a shining example of resilience, while Rachel's memoir inspired countless readers to find strength in adversity. Their lives intersected occasionally at community events and charity galas, where they exchanged smiles and warm words of encouragement. One evening at a Bright Path hosted event, Rachel approached Michael with a glass of wine in hand. "You've done an amazing job here," she said, gesturing to the bustling crowd of supporters. Michael smiled. "And you've done an amazing job with your book. I hear it's changing lives." They shared a quiet moment of mutual respect, two people who had weathered the storm and emerged stronger. The past was behind them, but its lessons had shaped the paths they now walked. Ethan's story became a cautionary tale in Crestview, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the fragility of trust. But it was also a story of redemption, as whispers of Ethan's efforts to mentor others in prison began to spread. He wasn't the man he had once been, and while the world outside moved on, Ethan focused on rebuilding himself, one step at a time. For Michael and Rachel, the betrayal that had once defined their lives became the foundation for something greater. Bright Path energy thrived, Rachel inspired, and the two of them carried forward, proving that even in the face of betrayal, resilience and integrity could light the way forward. This brings us to the end of the story. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and may God bless you for doing so. Thank you.